Going live here in 7 minutes with Destaney Wishon of Better AMS. Start asking your PPC questions now. Welcome to the My Amazon Guy podcast. Today we've got a special guest, Destaney Wishon with Better AMS, and we're here to answer your PPC questions. Thanks for coming on, Destaney.
Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So Destaney is no stranger to the My Amazon Guy podcast. I think this is her third official appearance, and this will be the first time, though, we're going to do live Q&A AMA. So if you have a PPC question and you want to try and stump Destaney, she's one of the premier PPC experts in the Amazon field. Full endorsement for me here. And let's go. Let's see if somebody can stump her today. It'll be fantastic if that happens. Probably won't, but we'll see.
I'm a little nervous now.
I'm trying to set you up here.
Set me up for failure.
In any case, before we start answering questions, Destaney, why don't you just tell everybody why you're a PPC expert?
Yeah. So my name is Destaney Wishon. I'm co-founder and CEO of Better AMS. We are an Amazon advertising agency, and I've been running nothing but Amazon advertising campaigns for going on 5 years now. So I've managed, I think, like over $100 million worth of spend at this point. And I've played with a ton of accounts from vendor, seller, brands, private label products, every single category. And I just have seen a lot of data at this point. So
that is a lot of data. Well, very good. We're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. Thank you. Hi, Steven and Destaney. It's good to see you. We'll start with the easiest one on the list here. What does PPC stand for?
Pay-per-click.
And what does that even mean?
So you only pay when someone clicks. Now, one thing I'll throw out there is I've actually been moving away from calling Amazon advertising PPC because they are rolling out ACPM models across some ad types. So you are able to have a cost per impression model, which means you only pay when someone sees your ad.
Just closed my door there. My father, Dan Pope, he's visiting this week, and he's our sales manager. He started taking a sales call in the other room there. All right. Tech says Alexa shopping actions is coming out January of 2022. What are your thoughts on pay per conversation and Alexa product placement?
We have ran quite a few different voice campaigns across some of our larger brands. And what I've seen so far is it's very similar to how DSP was when it first rolled out. You know, the reporting aspect is very much high level. Oh, you had this many conversations, you had this many impressions. I personally, as a consumer, don't love utilizing Alexa for shopping it because she says a lot of words and it drives me insane. I'd rather just click an ad and be done.
But you're an extrovert.
I know. Alexa is too much for me, but I think it's going to be the way of the future. In all honesty, I think, sitting here cooking and saying, hey, Alexa, I need this and this is going to be a very strong move in the future. So it's a big bet to take. And I would probably play around with audio if you have the budget, but it'll take a while for it to get really clean and concise.
Yeah, I think what do you think the dollar amount somebody should be spending on PPC is before they test something like that? Like 30 grand a month minimum?
We have brands spending $1 million a month that are playing around with voice, and they're still not even utilizing their full budget potential on the search side. So
yeah,
really depending on category, but if you're not maxing out search, you probably don't want to move to conversation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I was trying to figure out what the bright line should be. Jeff says, I apologize in advance. I might be asking some annoying questions today. Jeff, you have my permission to ask away. I had a client that cut off all advertising. A month later, their brand was much harder to find in search. Was that strictly because they stopped advertising? I'm gonna weigh in here just a tiny bit because they could have been hit by the rebate key situation. So Jeff, the first thing I would do is I would ask them, were you running any rebates or any external traffic? Because there's been tremendous amount of conversation on that in the last 2 weeks. That could have been the factor. But yeah, ad's going to affect here. Go ahead, Destaney.
One thing I'll say is it's not necessarily Amazon probably wanting to negatively impact the brand because they stopped ads. It's not a slap on the wrist. Usually what happens if they stop ads is the velocity for their main keywords dropped. And if they weren't organically ranking in the top 4 and like continuing that, that's something that may have happened is, overall, they just aren't getting visibility to their listings. So that's probably what I would say. I don't think it's going to be like Amazon, saying, no, you need to make your ads go. I think it's just algorithmically, they probably weren't driving as much volume without their ads.
I also had my top wine glass, the social distancing wine glass that got banned from ads in February. And mind you, I sold like 1,500, 2,000 units a month on this thing. Once I lost the ads, I was organic ranked #1 on the term wine glass, like the actual wine glass term. And it dropped all the way to position 40 in over 30 days just from being banned from ads. So ads definitely has a strong organic presence, no doubt. Can you talk about shoppable tags and the impact they may have on brands PPC?
So,
you know what shoppable tags are? Because I don't.
Yeah, I recently made a post of this. A good brand in the space had sent me a listing, and the first image was their regular listing image. Their second image was a lifestyle image of a room. And the room had shoppable tags on it, similar to a store page. So if you hovered over the bed and the comforter, you could click on the tag and it would show you 20 different other comforters. If you hovered over the table, it showed you 20 different other tables with the shoppable tag. Now, one thing to note is it wasn't showing competitors, or it wasn't showing brands' products. It was showing their competitors' products within their own listing images, which was absolutely insane.
That is insane. That's a big development.
Yes. Now, I've seen a lot, like in the furniture, home decor section. I think Amazon beta tests a lot of different things. And it makes sense in that category because people shop for aesthetic, not necessarily reviews or competitor or like price point advantage.
I think that's why House crept up on Amazon a little bit.
Yes.
And Wayfair.
Exactly. Now, I don't think it's going to have much of an effect on PPC yet. I'm assuming if it rolled out as an amazing consumer experience and a lot of people are using the shoppable tags, Amazon may make it a paid placement similar to display ad. But for right now, I don't think it's going to have any impact. It's only siloed to that category. I haven't seen it anywhere else. And I think brands will be pretty ticked off about it. And I don't think it'll be rolled out at scale.
Well, speaking of LinkedIn posts, if you guys are not following Destaney on LinkedIn today, I highly recommend it. Some of the most cutting edge. Like, I didn't know what shoppable tags were by phrase, but then I remember, once Destaney started talking, I saw her post about that on LinkedIn, and that's some great PPC news. Definitely recommend that. Andy says, what are your go-to advertising reports? That's a good one.
Yeah. So there's kind of the fundamentals. The search term reports, probably my all-time favorite report. Mainly due to the ability to like build macros around it and pull all of your search terms a lot more conveniently than within Ad Console. Some lesser known reports I think that I really enjoy is the impression share report. I've been utilizing that a ton. We pull the impression share report and then we build pivot tables around our top search terms in order to see where we have an opportunity to grow. So that's something that's really being slept on lately. The sponsored brands category report, where they actually show you your category comparisons, can be really valuable for anyone who's wondering why they're losing market share, things like that. Those are probably the biggest ones that I personally use frequently on a day-to-day basis.
And for those that are not currently using reports, you need to.
Make your job a lot easier.
Jeff says, I sell human and pet supplements. In general, is one ad type better than another? Sponsored product versus banner versus display versus video. Also, is it better to use targeting by individual keyword or by category? That could be an entire podcast in one question, Jeff.
Could be. I can hop in really fast. All ad types should be utilized hand in hand. They are different placements completely from an inventory perspective, zero crossover. Other than no, not really any crossover at all. So sponsored products are going to typically drive around 70% of your sales. That's because they look most native. They look like organic placements and customers don't really know the difference. And there's more ad inventory for sponsored products than any other ad type right now. So always recommend, maxing out your sponsored products. Sponsored brands, exact same in terms of one of the best placements on the page, very top of search, only typically drives around 20% of sales just due to ad inventory. But why I love sponsored brands is you have copy, you have a lifestyle image, and it's the opportunity to advertise 3 products for the price of 1 click. Here's a great custom image beta being ran as well.
And one of the points I think is always good to point out is when you land on a page like this, and I do have a couple of like add-ons to Chrome, but like top of funnel, all of this is an ad. Every single one of these posts.
Everything.
And then finally, you're getting to the first organic ones. And as you scroll down, you're getting like sponsored based on star ratings. So that those are technically sponsored. And then we got the video ad. Then we've got customer Amazon's choice. So like it's really hard to get an organic listing towards the top these days because you're competing against so many ad types. One of the things I think a lot of people fail to realize too, when you do a sponsored product ad, see how when I scroll down here, see these sponsored tags right here? This is like 50 products down. Yeah. And so you don't always need to win the top of search to have a well-performing ad. Sometimes, in fact, if you have a lower bid, you'll have a higher conversion rate because lower down in the funnel, people are more likely to purchase it because they've already scrolled through 50 products. If they click on yours, higher buyer intent. Everybody's going to have different testing results. You know, each category is different though.
Yeah. And then if you open up the product detail page, a lot of people don't realize that that carousel directly below the buy box can be upwards of 50 sponsored product placements. I've seen upwards of like 120. I think that one.
Here's 2 rows right there at the top, right? Like just barely right underneath.
400 sponsored product placements right there.
And then there's compare with similar items, another row of sponsored products. They sometimes will change the row's name. So this one's just the Prime free delivery row, right? Like I used to use My Buys back in the day, pre-Amazon days, and we'd use them to like A/B test product recommendations. They've always done well, which is why everybody always uses them. And even if you scroll down past all the reviews, featured items you might like, there's more. So
at the end of the day, I mean, the goal is to run every single ad type. Some are going to perform different. I mean, if you're competing against Coke and bidding on Coke, that sponsored brand headline ad is going to be so expensive that sponsored brands are probably not going to perform near as well as maybe what a sponsored product ad would because you're limited in inventory. But across the board, we've seen sponsored brands typically perform within a 5 to 6% ACOS of sponsored products. So almost perfectly in line from a profitability standpoint. And they're not just
especially video too.
Yes, video definitely outweighs. And they're not branded. There's a misconception that sponsored brand ads are for brands or they are only for branded keywords. No.
So to emphasize that, you could use the term funny wine glass, just like we did on the demo here. And it's not just for my Momster brand. It could be anybody's brand showing up there. Non-sponsored brand keywords. All right, let's go to the next question here. So Lord says, my Amazon guy, I need to run AMS ads on behalf of a client's seller. The client is asking me if I can run ads without the seller giving me access to Seller Central. How can we do this? Destiny, you've probably done this before, yeah?
Yeah, that's a red flag. Is kind of the one thing I'm going to mention. They can add you as a user to the account, which is what we do. You know, add you as a user and only give you limited permissions. That's the best recommended route. All you need is campaign manager and business report. That's all we get for almost all of our management, unless we also want to get an inventory report due to supply chain issues. That's what you're going to want to do. Have them add you as a user. But if they're like if they're not even wanting to give you that, which I've heard before of, hey, can you just use reports and things? Or maybe that's kind of a red flag. And maybe someone who already has trust issues. So you're always going to be having an uphill battle. That's coming from an agency perspective. But that's what you're going to want to look for is user access, appropriate permissions. You don't need to log in through their account, which has full access, and or if they have a software, you can utilize their software login.
Yeah, and software might be the true answer for Lord here. If they already have a software login, they give you a sub user on that one. So you could, and there's a lot of softwares out there. Yeah. My Amazon guy, if I stop my AMS ads every night at midnight and switch them on again at 6 a.m., will it impact my campaigns negatively in any way? I already know how you're going to answer this one.
I know we could have two varying opinions. Michael from Ad Badger has some really great podcasts on this. My opinion is it's a pay-per-click model. If they're clicking on your ads at midnight, they still want to purchase. They just may not purchase at that exact moment. I don't ever turn off campaigns for that reason. I mean, it's a very accurate reflection of the demand curve, and that's the beauty of having pay-per-click. Some people argue at midnight, you know, hey, someone's not actually wanting to buy, they're window shopping. That's fine. If you're window shopping for my product at midnight and you don't buy until 4 to 5 days later, that's what the attribution window is for, and that's the value of it. So that's always my mindset philosophy.
Plus, you can still get those retargeting ads if they click to begin with. So there's a lot of opportunities there. The thing I'll add here too, stopping and starting campaigns is, in my opinion, detrimental to the campaign health. Amazon is going to show your ads less. The robot that had its momentum, it's like running a marathon and then like halfway through the marathon, stopping and then going to eat a baked potato and then coming back to finish the rest of your marathon. Right? Nobody does that, of course, in a true marathon. And there's a reason. There's momentum. So you will lose a lot of that, in my opinion. Amarit says, hope you're well. Any links to detailed PPC guides for a new product? Thanks in advance. I'm sure you got a blog post on this one. We'll definitely get you a post in the links in the comments section. We'll come back to that after the podcast. Maz says, and follow Destaney on LinkedIn. Maz says, how do you set up campaigns for variations? Separate campaign for each variation? Variable question here.
Yeah, this is a good question. So one thing we look at is for variations, you're not going to win multiple placements. Like if you type in wine glasses again, only the parent variations are typically going to win those sponsored product placements. So you don't need to set up a campaign for every single child per se. What we like to do personally is create one campaign with all the variations, targeting our main keywords, and then see what's going to have the highest click-through rate. Because whatever has the highest click-through rate is the one that you want to make sure you're advertising, so that way customers can land on your ad, click through, and then they're still going to see all your other products. You don't need to have, 20 different variations all targeting white t-shirt, and you're only variated by size and style. You want to find the one that, click-through rate's the best, so that way you can have the majority of customers clicking through, and then you'd have no control over what's actually showing.
And I think one of the points Destaney makes here, the certain types of parentages would answer this question a little bit differently, right? So like if you were connecting a size parentage, you might want to advertise the lowest cost size because you can have the best return. But if you're doing like scent or flavor, could be a totally different ball game, right? You might have a lemon squeezy ad targeting lemon cleaner versus cinnamon apple for your candles, because people are absolutely going to want to target those with isolated exact match keywords. So it depends on the parentage too, I think. Good answer. Hello, LinkedIn fans. We got a few people saying hello over there. Sandeep and Raj, good to see you guys. You guys can start asking your questions. Go right ahead. Maz says, how many keywords do you recommend per campaign? And should I group them based on search volume to get impressions?
When I get this question, I like to stick with kind of the fundamental philosophy of why people segment, and that is based off your budget. I mean, for some of our brands that have a $10,000 a day budget, we can have, 50 keywords in a campaign and know that we have enough budget for all of those keywords to collect data. Now, if we have a $100 a day budget and you have 100 keywords in a campaign, you're not going to have even distribution of your budget at all. So that's what I recommend, is like looking at your budget and then doing the math. In general, we try to have less than 50. And if it's for a smaller account with a smaller budget, we're going to want to be even smaller. We do sometimes segment based off search volume. We'll take our highest search volume ranking keywords and put them in their own campaign, and maybe 5 keywords, because we want them segmented out. We want to control their modifiers, control the budget within that. But I don't think there's actually, a set answer. Some people say 1. Some softwares do 1. Some
keyword isolation strategies.
Yeah. And then some people, say 27, 15. But
got to be exact, right?
Yeah, it's not a hack to the algorithm. In reality, it's based off your budget distribution.
And I'll add to that. 2 years ago, our preferred campaign setup up to that point was to spray and pray, and we'd put a couple hundred keywords in. Yeah. That strategy hasn't worked since June of 2019, in my opinion.
Yeah, I go a lot smaller nowadays.
And the reason is because there was an algorithm update on relevancy. And so some keywords will simply not get impressions because Amazon's determined they're not relevant. And that can hurt. And so one of the solutions to that is go back into your copy and add some of those keywords in. It can help. Amarit says, if my PPC budget runs out every day, is it best to increase it? And how also will Amazon definitely use up the PPC amount set out for the day?
I mean, you have TACOS to consider here and ACOS. We run off the philosophy, if you're making money or even breaking even with your PPC, probably continue to increase it. If you are not, then optimize your campaigns first and then increase your budgets. Will Amazon definitely use the PPC amount set out for the day? No, all of their budgeting is now rolling based off a monthly cadence. So typically it's not going to be an exact amount within a 24-hour period. It's based off the average spend per month.
We've got a little bit of a cameo here coming in from Michael Erickson over at Ad Badger, asking this question, facetiously perhaps. What is your favorite animal and why is it the badger?
Obviously, because of Ad Badger. Like, what other animal would I pick out there? Does anyone else have any animals in their name?
Mine is the hummingbird. So agile iteration is my top skill, and the ability to just constantly iterate. So I like the hummingbird. It's also a warrior Aztec god thing where they're like feel like they're going to reincarnate into hummingbirds. So yeah, we're if I ever rebrand my Amazon guy, I'm not going to, but if I ever did, I would definitely I would mimic the Ad Badger concept and go honey go into the hummingbird territories here.
I love it.
Which also likes honey. All right, Jeff says, what does we started that one. That's right. All right, let's go to the next question. ASOS, if that's how you say your name, would you raise campaign budget during Black Friday if your profit margin is small?
Two things that are correlated, but this answer kind of makes it a little bit difficult, or this question makes it a little bit difficult. In general, what we've seen is conversion rates increase during Black Friday. So even if you don't touch your bids whatsoever, you're usually going to get a higher return on your campaigns. So yes, we recommend 100% raising your budgets. Again, do it on the campaigns that are making you money. Assume that your ACOS is probably going to be around 5 to 7% better with no adjustments to your campaign. Your ROAS is going to be higher. Filter campaign manager, everything within your ACOS target, and increase your budgets the day of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and potentially that, 72-hour period.
So I would say that on Black Friday and even more so on Cyber Monday, traffic on Amazon almost triples and conversion rate doubles. So you should absolutely be spending more on PPC during this time frame. It will actually lower your ACOS, which improves your margin most likely. So you will have to bid higher during that time frame. Speak more on CPC level tracking, please. Tools, tabs, anything. They're looking for a gem, Destiny.
I am not 100% sure what the value would be on tracking CPC across every single keyword, because there's a lot of variables. We've seen $10 CPCs that have a strong ACOS if your conversion rate's high enough. That's why I like looking at the search term report. I like looking at the impression share report as well to compare my CPCs versus my impressions versus my conversion rate. But something I'll kind of recommend is CPC is the one variable that we really control. We have control over bid management. So don't be scared of a high CPC if you're converting well enough, because you need those high CPCs in order to get the most amount of traffic. And I know that's not a great answer, but
I think it is. I mean, so if we're going to measure everything down to one or two metrics, I think everybody defaults to ACOS. Mm-hmm. So if you couldn't use TACOS or ACOS, what are the 2 or 3 metrics you would pay attention to?
Conversion rate and cost per click, because I have control over my CPC. But I don't see it as, oh my gosh, this is a $3 CPC. I need to make an optimization based off that. That's not the right way to look at it. You have to look at it hand in hand with your account performance.
No, so, the one I would add in there is CTR. If you have a bad CTR, you gotta improve your main image most likely, or it's a pricing problem.
Depending on your targeting, though, which is where I get frustrated when I see in the groups, oh my gosh, this campaign is CTR of so-and-so, I'm making optimization. Because at the end of the day, if I sell keto snacks, let's say I sell like a keto gummy bear, very, very competitive. Keto gummy bear is a very specific keyword. If I'm targeting something like healthy foods, I can expect my click-through rate to be really low.
Yeah, because you're trying to expand, acquire new customers.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great measurement, right? Like retention costs are always lower than acquisition. And so if you're just trying to play defense, lower costs usually.
Yeah.
Hi, Destiny. What's your keyword targeting strategy for this holiday season? Branded versus generic? broad versus phrase versus exact?
So in general, no matter the seasonality, we typically run in all match types if we're looking at scaling. Broad usually drives 3 times the amount of sales because you're covering a lot more placements, but at a higher ACOS, exact match is typically our most profitable match type, but drives the least amount of sales because, again, you're precisely targeting a keyword. Branded versus generic is a great question. If you have a limited budget, I'm typically on the fence of being more offensive than defensive, because you can run the assumption someone's typing in your brand name, they probably would have already purchased. That being said, I do promote branded campaigns in general. Always recommend protecting your brand name, because if you're not bidding on that space, someone else is.
They will.
If you were to tell me you only have a certain amount of budget, you have to decide internally, do you want to acquire new customers or, like you said, retain your old customers? I like having a strong mixture of both depending on what your overall goals are. Generic's always going to be, strong offensive strategy.
And here's a fun exercise for those watching this at home. Take out a piece of paper and draw a plus sign on it. And in each of these quads, you can have on the left quad, new customer, new product, old customer, new product. And then on the bottom, you'll have old product, new customer, old product, old customer. Which of those 4 quads are you trying to target? Based on that, that's how you advertise.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to Alan off of LinkedIn here. Hi, Destaney. I was wondering how you segment your campaigns. Do you have branded terms, keywords in the same CVR range? Looking forward to hearing from you.
This is a great question. So branded campaigns or branded terms 100% need to be in their own campaigns. Not only that, but you need to make sure if you have a strong brand presence, you are appropriately negating terms, whether it's non-branded or branded.
Do you mean like run an auto campaign but negate your brand off of it? What do you mean?
Yes, exactly. Or even I see a lot of people, like, let's say if I'm Coca-Cola, I've gone in, audited very large brands. I'll click on a non-branded campaign. They're bidding on soda in broad. You want to know what the #1 top driving search term is? Soda Coke, Coke soda. Like, it happens they think they're targeting non-branded, they're not.
Where's my Utah peeps? Pop, as they call it in the West.
Yes, that's true.
But I'm now in Georgia, which is the home of Coca-Cola. So they call everything a Coke here.
Yes. So what we typically do is we have branded campaigns in sponsored products, sponsored brands, brand defense campaigns, sponsored display, and all the product targeting. And then we have ranking campaigns segmented for every single ad type typically as well. We have the cross-selling campaigns like Steven mentioned. Keywords in the same conversion range. We don't necessarily filter by conversion, but we do segment out campaigns based off of this one's driven 3 orders or more, 2 orders or more. We kind of look at it as a regression model, but we try to be much more granular because then I can control my budget distribution. If I have branded versus non-branded campaigns, I can easily filter and say, hey, 40% of my budget is going towards branded versus non.
I feel like there's 2 reasons to focus on segmentation. The first is to improve performance. Mm-hmm. And the second is to make your job easier.
Yes.
Right. And so you can make your job easier by segmenting things appropriately. So you know, like, where to spend your time and why and all that good stuff. All right. So Kier says, I have a client with limited budget, created many campaigns. The budget is greater than the budget cap. What do you do?
I think if you have a small budget, a lot of the strategies I recommend are probably not a good fit because you need a lot of money to cover every single ad type and every single keyword and category possible on Amazon. So I always recommend, just like Steven mentioned, sitting down and knowing what your goals are. Are you looking at ranking? Is that the focus?
Then it's an SEO campaign segmentation. Add that to a portfolio.
Yes, exactly. And then move your budget there. If you maybe don't have a ton of reviews and your conversion rate's not super strong yet, then you probably don't want to focus specifically on these really competitive keywords. Maybe you need to go a little bit more long tail or focus on some product targeting campaigns where you have a competitive advantage. Get really, really clear and don't overthink it. Put yourself into the mind of your consumer and focus on those areas.
Kevin, super fan. Kevin says, good afternoon. Maz says, do you recommend to pause SP ads, sponsored product ads, once the SKU runs out of stock? I noticed sponsored ads was running when out of stock with the in-stock future date 2 weeks. So I actually put a video out on this one, and I feel strongly that You want to disable this feature if you are seeing bad performance, typically. You could turn the ads off, but in general, I don't ever like turning ads off. I like leaving them running. So I guess this is a question about the in-stock future date and conversion question more so than anything. What are your thoughts, Destiny?
100% everything you just said is the actual fix. But what we've seen is if you have a future date, or even if you switch, a lot of people are switching from FBA to FBM due to supply chain issues last year.
That's another good one.
Yeah, if you switch to FBM and your shipping date's going to be lower, it drops your conversion rate, which completely screws with your performance. Because if you have a lower conversion rate, that means in order to make the exact same targeting more profitable, you typically have to lower your bid. And it just changes a lot of the history and relevancy of the campaign because you're negatively impacted by that poor conversion rate.
If anybody from Amazon's API team is watching this, I would like to see a feature request for annotations inside of Seller Central's ad console. So that way, if we know we have a stock out event, we can mark it on the sheet and we know, oh, that's why ACOS spiked here or whatever. That'd be really helpful. I thought that PPC would stop when out of stock. All right, so kind of a continuation of that question. All right. How efficiently target on high bid keywords? Do you have any strategy on that?
Make sure you're converting as good as possible. That's where your conversion rate is really, really important. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, we've had, $10 CPCs, but we were converting at a 50%. So it was okay. And we made money on those ads. If you can't compete because you're not converting well enough, then don't try to directly, outbid someone. Maybe look at a sponsored display product targeting or sponsored product targeting. So that way, instead of competing head to head for that number one placement, instead you're piggybacking off the traffic that they're getting because they're bidding so high.
Good old ASIN targeting also could be helpful. The other thing I'd add here too is if you win on price at any point in time, you will lose on price eventually. And same concept could apply here with bidding. And so if you can't win on the bid, the thing I would suggest to do is go build a community. If you can win on community, you will have a cult brand forever and people will find you. Benjamin Tillis, former My Amazon Guy employee, now an employee over at Boosted Commerce. Can you give your tips to creating a successful sponsored brand video campaign, including tips for content of the video and setting it up the campaigns, targeted keywords, etc.?
Yeah, a few big things that I would recommend. One, make something that's more native to the platform. Although fun and beautiful commercialized videos look amazing, I found that on Amazon, people don't want to see a commercial that they would see on their TV. What we found does really well is just an ad that looks native. Even if it's as simple as a slideshow or a PowerPoint, does really, really well.
Here's one of my favorite ads of all time. It's just a dog tail wagging. That's it.
But my cat one is my favorite one because they have the little cat playing with the thing in front of it. It's the same company that did that.
Yes. Send me a link to that one. I'll add that to my bookmarks.
Oh, perfect. It's the same brand. Pet.
Is it?
I and Love You, or however you say that brand.
I've always wanted to hire a video animator to pull those off. If you're a video animator watching this, send me your resume, jobs@myamazonguy.com. I want to talk to you. We always have requests for video stuff, and I never feel like we have enough talent on that question. Zakari says, what are your thoughts on running only single word campaigns? So this is kind of like the keyword isolation we briefly talked about. We use search tools to find our keywords rather than auto campaigns and pulling performance out. Common strategy. Do you think it's effective?
I don't think it's effective at scale. I think if you have 500 keywords and you're trying to run keyword isolation and then put placement modifiers on top of it, it's not a recommended strategy. I've seen very poor results from it. Now, that being said, when we are looking at specific ranking strategy, we run single keyword campaigns and or limited keyword campaigns, maybe 1 to 3 keywords exact match. What we're going to do is put a top of search modifier on it because we want to win the number 1, number 2, number 3 placements on organic search for all of our keywords. And then what we're going to do is we're going to analyze how well we're converting on those keywords at the very top of the page for our main keywords, because you don't get that data organically. You don't get to see what term drove, any type of sale and what your conversion rate is on the keyword level. That's the beauty of sponsored product ads, is you can see them. So that's something that we 100% recommend doing. As an example, we ran something on like tarps versus tarp. And we ran an exact match, put a top of search modifier, drove a ton of traffic, and we realized that the plural one converted 6% better.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, and that's a super cool data point to have when we're running anything external or looking at, back in the day, search, find, buys, canonical URLs, things like that. So we run them when we want to control our data very, very precisely. And yeah.
The one of the most complex softwares on the market to run PPC, and is the hardest software to leave, in my opinion,
Yes,
is Quartile. And that's because they create thousands of isolated keyword campaigns, which makes it really fun to try and take over some of those campaigns. So,
and then they rely on placement modifiers to drive their results, which gets complicated because if you're familiar with placement modifiers, the reading is bid will be adjusted based off likelihood of a conversion. That's a lot of variables to play with. Not only are you adjusting your bid, you're now relying on the CPC to be completely different based off Amazon's ability to assume a conversion, which makes it pretty tricky.
It is tricky. Sandeep says, I'm planning to launch a new product as a new variation. My question is, which SKU to promote through PPC for this launch? Old, new, or both variations?
I think this really goes back to that variation style, like what Steven mentioned. If it's a completely different scent, flavor, chocolate protein versus vanilla protein, then I would recommend setting up campaigns targeting your specific ranking keywords. If it's a color variation, you're going to have, a competitive advantage based off that. You can bid on those specific keywords and push them. But if it's something as simple as like maybe a pack size difference, I would probably do your lower price point because you're going to have the highest click-through rate. And then they're going to land on your page anyways and see that they have a multi-pack size and they can click through to it later on.
From my experience, it's pretty hard to dethrone the bestseller SKU on a parentage when you're adding variations. So it's usually more costly to try and bring up a new product. I see this all the time. The other thing I'd say too is variations do have their own honeymoon period. And so you do want to typically spend heavy when you first launch them out.
Yeah.
Do you put more weight on long tail customer search terms, customer search intent in reports over specific keywords?
I would say better AMS in general. One of our core focuses is definitely on finding all the low hanging fruit. We like to go really aggressive on ranking and launch keywords. And then we like to do very deep long tail search term report analysis in order to find those profitable keywords that are going to stabilize our overall ACOS. So that's a huge core part of what we do. Another thing we do is we make sure to cross-reference sponsor products to sponsor brands. We take all of our amazing long tail search terms from sponsor products and roll them over to both ad types. We do the same thing from SB to SP. We value auto campaigns and broad match for this reason. It's evergreen keyword research for you. Always run these campaign types because then every 30 days you pull your search term report and you have a whole list of 50 new long tail keywords. Now, again, if you don't have enough budget to collect data effectively, you're going to be spreading yourself way too thin.
I'll give you one example. This is a cultural reference, right? So this is a beer glass that I sell. This is the way, right? Star Wars paraphernalia here. And during the Mandalorian launch, new keywords come out. People are searching specific things. And so something like this is the way becomes a thing, right? So you can take advantage of some of that vernacular intent as it changes. And let's say you sell a random product that's not built for paraphernalia purposes, you could still see new intents come out. So never stop your auto campaigns and your broad matches. Just make sure you add negations to them so they're not crazy.
Or one thing I'll mention is I'm always big on bid management. I prefer bid management over negations. We've talked about that very extensively. You mentioned customer search intent. Something that's beautiful about running at a pay-per-click model is, again, if they're clicking on it, they had some form of intent regardless of what they typed in. Now, they may not convert as well. They may be in a broader targeting type, but I give the example of keto in the past because I was bidding on Whole Foods. Whole Foods is very, very top of the funnel and very poor search intent. But what happened was I had such a low bid that I was incrementally getting impressions in the background. I had 100 clicks in one order. Terrible, terrible conversion rate, 1% conversion rate. But I had an 11-cent bid. So the campaign was profitable in the long run. So as long as you have good bid optimization, you can really weigh those long tail customer search terms a lot different. Because like you mentioned, you have your very precise keywords that are always going to come up and they're going to change. There's a life cycle for a lot of those things. But if you have good bid optimization, it doesn't matter if it's super poor customer intent. Like,
you'll be fine. When we take over an unsophisticated account, but they're an up and comer, so let's say they're like a 500K annual account, one of the first things that we tend to do is create an auto campaign for every SKU. And we're always blown away by how successful those are. It just works.
Exactly.
Works. So if you're looking for a quick hack and it's on an account that doesn't have auto up already, that's an easy one.
Yep.
Thoughts on a PPC tool that would pull your desired organic index rank and bid hourly to get you there, lower the bid once ranked in that position. Then if you fall, start the process again. That is a really sophisticated strategy, Zachariah.
My recommendation is to type in any keyword on Amazon and tell me how many organic placements you see without scrolling down.
You don't. Yeah.
I mean,
it's rough.
If you have a limited budget, I am recommending this strategy 100%. If you only have a certain amount of marketing,
if they're paying for a software that does this, they don't have a limited budget though.
Exactly. That's also a good point.
And having multiple ads, including your organic, show up at the same time. So you got sponsored brand, sponsored product, your organic, and a video, maybe display, all showing up. That's dominance in the space. It's going to increase your conversion rate because they see you everywhere.
Agree. I mean, there's so many subconscious factors we could dive into as well, but correct me if I'm wrong, Steven, you're technically not allowed to specifically overlay some of that MWS organic data with the PPC data. So I don't even think you would be allowed to market that tool at scale because you can't. I mean, you'd have to scrape the data on the organic side on the keyword level hourly.
It would be really hard to have an API that not only is compliant, like you mentioned, but actually successful on like real ranking. Then you got regional organic question ranking, and it just gets really, really complex. I think that tool is probably too early for market right now. Is there a way to control or get clicks impressions on the rest of the page placement? So instead of doing like top of page, can you do purposely other way?
I think the only suggestion I've really seen is just by pushing bids on product targeting.
I think so too, but I don't think you can choose like where on the product page you show up.
I do believe it's coming.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I saw it somewhere during a feedback session. So I think it's coming, but not now.
Cheya says, I'm testing a display campaign with VCPM model, and it's getting much more sales than when I ran it with the regular CPC model. Is it taking credit from other ad types that I'm running? That's an interesting question.
Yes, technically. But it's not necessarily taking credit. Because it's I believe all of Amazon's on a last click attribution. Now this is on a views. So if somebody clicked on your other ads and then viewed this ad, but without clicking on it, it's technically going to be taking that attribution, which is why views CPM is super interesting because it could be more of like, that's a whole it's a whole advertising philosophy question on whether or not an ad that's viewed should get credit. At the end of the day, like Steven mentioned, if you're running sponsor brand ads, sponsor product ads, sponsor display ads, subconsciously, a customer is going to know your ad and your brand is more prominent on the platform. So do I think it's a bad thing? No. Do I think it has a potential to cause misattribution issues? Maybe. Is it cannibal? It's more philosophy.
Sometimes when new ad types come out or new techniques, it is more of a gut decision than a data decision in many instances.
Yeah.
Alan says, my Amazon guy, if we have a limited budget for a product launch, how would you choose the keywords to start ranking for? Would you go for the longer tail keywords with less competition? Yes. Or would you rather go for highly relevant keywords that potentially are more competitive but keep the amount of keywords very limited? So I'm very much a spray and pray strategy when it comes to SEO. Maximize your indexing whenever possible. And if you're not indexing for at least 1,000 words within 30 days, you've left sales on the table, in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Destaney?
Set up a campaign and see how well you're converting for those competitive keywords. That's the easiest thing to do. And I love
do both. Yeah.
Amazon ads because we can make database decisions on the sponsor product side. Specifically, you can create a top of search campaign and within 12 hours see how expensive it is on average to win top of search. If you see it's costing you $3 a click and you're not converting well, then if you have a poor conversion, you do not want to try to rank for that because you have an issue with your listing first and foremost. So it's easy to say any one keyword's competitive, but in reality, set up a campaign, wait 24 hours, then see whether or not you can compete.
William says, hi, great channel. Thank you, William. Long time no see, Destiny. What do you think the best way to rank a product using Amazon PPC?
So really, really quick, I take our top keywords, I put them in exact match. I add top of search placement modifier because I'm of the belief that the ranking algorithm in general is all about driving high volume to any keyword, whether external, internal, search find by PPC, and then converting well in those keywords. If you're converting poorly, I lay off because that's probably going to hurt my organic rank. If I'm converting well compared to category average, I drive a ton of traffic and I view that campaign as a ranking campaign or a giveaway. I set aside budget and that is my focus. I do not care about ACOS. I'm wanting to 1, convert incredibly well, 2, convert profitably. If I see that CPCs for my ranking keywords are very expensive, maybe cost per acquisition needs to be considered. You should look at driving traffic elsewhere.
This is a common theme of our last few questions. What is the effective type of campaign to rank a keyword?
Sponsored products are probably the most prominent because you're driving the highest amount of volume, quickest way. Top of search modifier again.
I agree. Oben 92, for a converting keyword, how fast can you increase the bid without hurting performance?
Amazon's not going to care if you spend more money. Again, though, top of search and higher bids is going to put you in a different placement. So if you have 30 reviews and the rest of your competitors have 300 reviews, the moment you go to top of search, you're going to look a lot less, like a lot worse than the rest. So your conversion rate may decrease. So that's the only thing you need to consider. On a product detail page, you may convert higher. So you want to maintain that bid. Then if you double it, like there's no math. Like, you know, some people are like, oh, the algorithm is going to be hurt on that. And no, they're not going to hurt you for that. They're going to hurt you if your conversion rate changes by placement.
And by the way, I'm a firm believer you do not have to have lots of reviews to start advertising a product. And I'll give you an example here. So this is one of my latest new launches, some Smudge Sage sticks. My daughter's name is Sage. That's why we launched it the way we did. And here you can see we got the #1 new release in incense. I'll give you a second example. So we're off to the races, sold more than 1,000 units over the last 3 weeks of this. Here's another one. We launched this in 3 weeks before Mother's Day, generated $144,000 in revenue in 3 weeks, had a single product review when we first started, and it obviously worked. Currently running a sale right now to try and bolster it right before Black Friday, jockeying for some keyword position. So even months later, sometimes you gotta massage it to get it going. All right, so let's go to the next one here from Jeffrey. When creating a campaign, when would I want to use targeting by individual keywords versus targeting by category?
I'm not sure if you're referring to category as a product targeting type or category as in category keywords. If you're referring to category keywords, I always try to segment my highest value keywords into individual campaigns, and then my category keywords are segmented by search volume typically. If you're referring to the product targeting type, category targeting, that's
Say that 10 times fast.
That's a whole different campaign that you're going to set. You're going to want to have your keyword targeting and then your product targeting, category targeting for data collection.
Kate says, do you have a general campaign set for newly launched product? For example, broad match, pat competitors, etc.
I don't typically launch, if I have a limited budget, I start with exact match because I want to drive very precise traffic that I can control. Once I run that for 48 hours, then I potentially look at a broad and phrase match at lower budgets, lower bids, because I want to make sure I'm targeting the right things and the algorithm's getting to know me appropriately. I run product targeting on everyone I do have a competitive advantage of. I do not run product targeting on anyone that is
the dominant
70 times the reviews I do and a price point advantage.
You can waste a lot of money on display category targeting when you try and hit the #1 seller. I wasted about $2,000 on display campaigns, and I was like, I can't believe this isn't converting. I'm going to spend more just to prove myself wrong. Yes. And that didn't work out. When I add Squid Games as a keyword to all my campaigns, Amazon doesn't see them as relevant. Is the word Squid Games on your listing? Would be my first question.
And then the secondary to that is if it's completely not relevant, then you're probably going to get minimal impressions based on who stops bidding on that keyword. And then one thing we've seen is if it is somewhat relevant, it's probably it's probably issue with your listing. You don't have it anywhere in your listing. So Amazon would have no reason to believe it's relevant. They're not going to be able to index your imagery that well.
I have no idea which button I just clicked that makes music sound, but this is to signal that we're in our lightning round. And here we go. So 10 minutes to go. We're going to go fast on these ones. Yogesh, is Google Ads good for increasing organic ranking of product?
External traffic in general is good for ranking your product. The actual weight of that is theorized.
Any traffic, good traffic. Gulam says, I know it's a very broad question, but what would be a highly effective PPC strategy for a newly launched product? Probably hard to answer that in 15 seconds.
Exact match, top of search.
There you go. That's pretty good. Zachary says, is sending off platform traffic affecting the ASIN in a negative way if no sales? I know Amazon's algorithm can flag the ASIN if too much traffic coming from a referral link, or am I incorrect?
I would say more than likely any traffic that's not converting is probably going to be hurting you in the long term.
Are there specific things we can do to reduce our cost per click?
Lower your bid. Easy enough.
And convert better.
Yes.
Add A+ content. Bilo says, what should be the strategy for seasonal products when out of season period reaches?
Typically, if you're out of season, your demand's also going to drop. So it's not usually that large of an issue. But if your conversion rate does drop, you need to lower your CPCs to account for that conversion rate drop.
Alan says, once you've gathered some data, how do you decide which keywords you would like to rank higher on? Do you look at both CVR and CTR, conversion rate and click-through rate, keywords, or do you maybe look at different data such as search volume or maybe something completely else?
I think search volume is a good one on the organic side. So that way you can figure out how to drive more traffic. Conversion rate is one of the most important on the ad side. So you know that you should be ranking for something. If you're not ranking on an ad, you're not going to rank organically or convert organically.
Tyler says, what is the best strategy for products that are ranked on the first page already for multiple keywords, have Amazon's Choice Badge, and have between 5,000 and 10,000 reviews? Do you still run PPC on them?
I typically recommend running PPC unless you have a limited budget, but watch your market share. If your market share stops dropping, you better start running ads.
If you've got 5,000 reviews and aren't running ads, I would scratch my head. Bilal says, what strategy for having a lower ACOS for lower conversion listing?
Increase your conversion rate.
Redesign. For launching a new product with minimum ad spend, what strategy to use?
Sponsor product, exact match, top of search.
That's the best answer.
You need that honor, yeah.
Kevin says, you mentioned sometimes target only one keyword in a campaign. Yep, that's the keyword isolation strategy. What about with category targeting? Do you only do one category per campaign? Yes.
Yes.
That one's easy. What are your recommended optimization tips and optimization frequency?
Top down. If you are not using bid optimization, go top down, highest spend, open the campaigns. And your bid is the number one thing you control. Understand your correlation between bid and ACOS.
Do you ever ASIN target on products that are cheaper and lower in stars than your product?
Yes.
How do you sell something related to Star Wars without getting Amazon breathing down your neck for IP infringement? I don't know. I just do it. That's the true answer. For products, phone cases that are old models, what PPC strategies should be implemented on these to ensure they continue to perform?
Phone cases are super tricky because if someone is searching for a phone case, they want a specific model, get incredibly granular with your targeting and making sure you're dominating that specific model's ads.
How many keywords to be used while launching a new product? 20, 50, 100. What split in phrase and broad exact?
Cannot answer that in 15 seconds without doing more details.
Every category is different. Can you delete campaigns or portfolios directly in Amazon's dashboard? Cannot find anywhere to do that. SOS.
No, you cannot. You can rename your portfolios with XXX. They'll show up at the bottom. There's no deleting.
Oh, I didn't think about the XXX strategy. That's a good one. I like that. Can you delete portfolios or campaigns directly in the Amazon dashboard? Renaming them to trash if we don't use them, but getting too many to stay organized.
Nope.
Download, export, Excel file. Your Excel files are your future, sir. Do you have any issues running video ads on your wine glasses? Yes, I do. Sometimes they are alcohol prone and you have to not show the wine being poured. It's stupid, really dumb. My video ad for my wine glasses wasn't approved and seemed that Amazon will not allow me at all to run video ads on my product. Switch the video, try different angles, just try without alcohol being consumed. It also could be the title of the product can be a problem too. How do you play with bids?
It's just math. I have a really good 15
It's not like playing fetch with a cat.
Yeah, I have really good bid optimization video on YouTube that talks about a 15-minute understanding of CPC bid conversion rate.
Post that one in the comments after.
Yeah.
Where do you see PPC going in 2022? Priority on video, off-traffic platforms, etc.
There's two big areas Amazon's prioritizing. One is brand. That's why we're getting creatives. That's why we're getting copy. That's why video is expanding to different types of models. Two, off-platform traffic from DSP is being rolled over in a sponsored display because sponsored ads have limited inventory. It's becoming more and more play. Amazon needs to diversify that traffic. Yes to both.
Humanization is the future of PPC, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Martin says, I'm very new at this. Just launched. Why am I getting impressions when I bid low purposely? Because my SKUs are not in stock yet, sitting in the yard. So we answered that earlier today. That was because there's a feature you need to disable. And by the way, if you're launching a new product, you need to set the launch date so you don't mess up your honeymoon period, Martin. But yeah, scroll up to, I think it was like minute 22. Oben, can you safely bid on prohibited keywords? And I'm going to throw one out there, CBD.
Yeah.
You can pretty safely. Just don't put it in your search terms.
Yes.
You'll get yanked. To improve CVR, work on images or bullets first. Images. What do you think?
Yeah. Images have priority from everything we've seen.
Everything, I agree. Which usually strategy do you recommend for lower budget products?
Lower bids, long tail keywords.
Sponsored products. Yep. Yeah. And Martin says, "Thank you. You're very welcome." All right. So, Destaney, we got through the lightning round. For those that would like to learn more about Better AMS, what should they do?
I'll get into that, but real quick, Steven, I have a huge update.
Okay, tell me.
Actually have released rule-based bidding as a beta in Amazon advertising in the last few hours. Well,
wow.
Just got that update.
That's awesome. Post that in the comments too. We'll keep everybody updated with all the news. That's a big update.
I'll post it on LinkedIn. Super exciting. If anyone wants to find me, LinkedIn's typically the place where I'm posting the most relevant, most frequent content, small sound bites here and there. I do have Better AMS YouTube. And if you're interested in Better AMS, betterams.com.
Here's Destaney's LinkedIn page. We have 779 mutual contacts. I think we're working on the same space. Maybe.
That's a lot.
Maybe. All right. Well, Destaney, thank you for coming on the My Amazon Guy podcast. Tomorrow, I'll have my regular program podcast every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Come in and ask me any questions. I don't have an official question count we had today, but it feels at least 75 or something like that. It was pretty good. And we really appreciate everybody listening. And if you liked today's podcast, do me a favor, add a comment. Just tell me the one thing you like the most about it. Helps us with the YouTube algorithm. And see you tomorrow for our regular Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time every week on Friday. Ask My Amazon Guy any question. Destaney, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for everyone for being so engaging.
I love PPC AMAs. They're one of my favorites. All right, we'll do more of these. We'll have Destaney come back on. That's it for us. Cheerio.